I've always been a huge fan of canceled projects in the way that it just interests me in seeing projects that never came to be and being extremely mad at what we get instead. Now, canceled projects can include movies, TV shows / cartoons, and video games, the topics of today's video. More specifically, Nintendo games, because if you watched my channel before, then yeah. So let's take a look at some canceled Nintendo games. So without any further ado, let's go and let's get upset. To be honest, I don't really have a particular order for these games, so I'll just randomly talk about the games, starting with Donkey Kong Racing. Donkey Kong Racing was developed as a direct sequel to the Nintendo 64 game Diddy Kong Racing. Now, I've always found it weird that they made a racing game featuring Diddy Kong and not Donkey Kong, but apparently, after a bit of research, the game was originally not going to have Diddy Kong in it, but Rare apparently wasn't confident in it, so they changed it, but the developers didn't have the rights to Donkey Kong himself, because Rare can only use their created characters, as quoted by one of the developers. Nintendo enjoyed the fact that we chose Diddy Kong over Donkey Kong. I think that it was trying to build on the fact that Diddy was ours and DK was theirs. Anyways, DK Racing was developed for the GameCube as a direct follow-up to Diddy Kong Racing, this time including Donkey Kong. However, things went south when in 2002 Microsoft acquired Rare and proceeded to do almost nothing with them for the next 20 years. Thanks, Microsoft. Because of all this, all Rare games involving Nintendo characters were scrapped, including this one. However, there was still hope as Rare tried reworking this game into Saberman Stampede and, oh okay, never mind. Super Mario 64 2 would have been a sequel to the small indie game Super Mario 64, planned for release in 1999. It was going to be released for the Nintendo 64 DD, but was cancelled because who the f*** owned a Nintendo 64 DD? Yeah, the Nintendo 64 DD was a commercial failure, and there were a lot of games in this video that were planned to be on the 64 DD, so that will be a recurring trend. Only one demo level was ever made, but was never publicly revealed, and according to Nintendo during an E3 event, they stated that multiplayer would have been in the game, such as Luigi being playable and a rideable Yoshi. Essentially, L would have been real in this game. Holy sh**. Another potential sequel would have been Super Mario 128, which I'm sure you've heard a bajillion times now already, but at this point, I'll talk about it anyways. It was first shown as a tech demo at Space World 2000, and it basically just shows the GameCube's power to kill 128 Marios. Nintendo kept on insisting that this game would eventually release, but I think we all know where that went. Despite all of this, it is safe to say that a lot of the ideas and elements of this tech demo were used in many other Nintendo games, including Pikmin, the Iron Boots and The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, and Super Mario Galaxy, which is especially shown with the spear walking we see in the tech demo and the planet in Super Mario Galaxy. Also, I thought it was worth mentioning that Super Mario 128 has been confirmed to be unrelated to Super Mario Sunshine according to Shigeru Miyamoto. Super Mario Spikers was a cancelled Mario volleyball wrestling game developed by Next Level Games, the developers behind the Mario Strikers games. And from the concept art, this game genuinely seemed really cool. But then you get to the test animations and yes, Nintendo straight up rejected this game because it was just a little too violent for Mario standards. However, despite all this, we got Mario Strikers Battle League instead. Yikes. Retro Studios, the developers behind the Metroid Prime series and the new Donkey Kong Country games, I mean that is in almost 10 years, had a couple of cancelled games. First, we have Boo Haunt, aka this would have been a DS game where you play as a Boo graduated in the Haunt University. Despite this all looking like fan art in the concept art and not an official Nintendo game, I do think this looks interesting and it's a shame this got cancelled. Another game being developed by Retro Studios would have been a Chic game. It was reportedly in various stages of early development for 3 years, but one developer described this simplistic gameplay as an experiment gone wrong, so that's definitely a great sign, leading to its cancellation. And apparently the gameplay combat would have boiled down to a simplified version of Whack-A-Mole. Despite the actual game seeming a bit underwhelming, this one just hurts for me because it looked so cool. But yeah, we're definitely not getting this game, but I mean, we got Tingle's Rosy Rupee Land. Speaking of Tingle, according to Kensuke Tembe, there was a Tingle horror game being developed in 2010. Apparently this was a thing at one point. It was cancelled, however, for unknown reasons, probably because it would have been a little too scary, because I mean, it's Tingle we're talking here. Despite this game was apparently reworked into Dillon's Rolling Western, a 3DS game with this guy who you've probably seen as an assist trophy in Smash. Before we got Kid Icarus Uprising for the 3DS, Factor 5, the developer of Star Wars Rogue Squadron, started work on a new entry in the Kid Icarus series for the Wii, which would have been a much more mature take on the franchise. I'm honestly glad this game got scrapped, because we probably never would have gotten Kid Icarus Uprising, which is such a great game. Nintendo, please remake that game or make a new Kid Icarus game. Fire Emblem 64 was originally intended to release on the Nintendo 64 DD, however, due to the commercial failure of the Nintendo 64 DD, it was cancelled. Now, as someone who doesn't really give a shit about Fire Emblem, I assumed that was really it, but apparently this game was later reworked into Fire Emblem The Binding Blade for the Game Boy Advance, and in late 2015, the book The Making of Fire Emblem 25th Anniversary Development Secrets Awakening Fates was released. This anniversary book contained some development information on most games in the series, including concept artwork and some dialogue samples from Fire Emblem 64, so I guess there's a bit of a happy ending for Fire Emblem fans. Also, there were some screenshots made, and looking at these screenshots, yeah, this game looked rough, even for Nintendo 64 standards. Now, of course, there's the infamous Star Fox 2, a cancelled game that actually eventually got released, but another cancelled Star Fox game you probably don't know about is Star Fox for the Virtual Boy, which some theorized that it would have taken the assets from Star Fox 2, which was unreleased at the time. Other than that, not much is known about this one. Another two cancelled Virtual Boy games out of the probably over 100 or so, because half the library is featured on the box, was Mario Land Virtual Boy and Mario Kart Virtual Boy, the former being the mainline game of the Virtual Boy. All these games were cancelled because, well, it's the Virtual Boy. I don't really think I need to say much else.
These games are great!
Return of Donkey Kong was a cancelled NES game that we know exists because of an official Nintendo Player's Guide in 1987 and the 5th issue of Nintendo Fan Club in 1988. Nothing is really known about this game outside the fact that barrel throwing would return as a mechanic and that Donkey Kong would appear as a playable character for the first time, seemingly. No images were ever shown of the game. It's not known if Return of Donkey Kong ever existed past the conceptual stage. In fact, many people have speculated that this may have been an early title for Donkey Kong Classics for the NES, which is a compilation game of Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. Kid Kirby would have been a cancelled Kirby game for the SNES that was developed by DMA Design Ltd, who eventually became Rockstar. Yes, that Rockstar. Not much is known about this game outside of it using the SNES mouse to click and drag and stretch Kirby out, then launch him to progress in the level. So it basically would have just been Angry Birds, I guess. At first, I thought this game would follow Kirby's son, but no, it was apparently a prequel. Does Kirby even age? The game was cancelled due to the poor sales of the SNES mouse, plus the N64 is approaching, so Nintendo was focused on making games for that console, and Rockstar went on to make much less violent games. The final game I want to talk about was Earthbound 64. Earthbound 64 would have been the third installment in the Mother franchise. The game began development for the Nintendo 64 DD, with the project set to release in 1999, and yeah, I think you can already see where this is going. This one especially hurts because halfway through development, the team had to drastically downscale their original version as the team could not achieve their large-scale ideas on the Nintendo 64 DD due to the limitations even with this add-on. And apparently development was 60 to 70% complete, and they even tried developing it for the GameCube, but that was scrapped. But eventually the game was released for the GBA as Mother 3, with several plot points from Earthbound 64 being used for the game, so overall in the end we did get this game, only for it to never be released outside of Japan. So that was all the games I wanted to talk about in this video. Of course, that's not all of them. There are so many more that I haven't even talked about. If you want to see another video, though, be sure to let me know. Hell, if you guys are interested, I'd even make a video on canceled games on other companies and not just Nintendo. Or even a video on canceled movies or TV shows slash cartoons even. But I know my audience is mostly Nintendo fans, so I don't know about that. But let me know in the comments if you're interested, and let me know your thoughts about these canceled games, and if you wish the Tingle horror game was never canceled. Also, A huge shout out to Unseen64 and all these games wiki pages, as they definitely were a huge help, and I'd recommend checking them out if you want to learn more about these games or see other canceled games. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Oh, great. Bill, you're fired.